The Minneapolis area continues its descent into absolute chaos as the police chief and the officer involved in the shooting of Daunte Wright have both resigned. Now, chaos is not my opinion. It's a statement coming from the acting police chief who was only just told he's going to be in charge of the department. And he said, well, it's very chaotic right now. Earlier today, reporters were yelling at the police chief because they were asking him, do you even know what's going on out there in the street? And he said, I was there on the front line at the protest, at the riot, and they snapped. Rabble, 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 they say. There was no riot. It was a protest. And the police chief says it was a riot. They were throwing bricks and stuff at us. One officer got hit in the head and had to be hospitalized. How is that not a riot? The other day on the IRL podcast, as we were exploring news about the phenomenon, I Google searched riot, and of course, the story did not come up. We have now seen 2 nights of widespread rioting and looting over the shooting of Daunte Wright, even outside of Minneapolis, affecting the rest of the country. Yet Google pulled up mostly nothing. It was stories about the Capitol. Yet when you searched for peaceful protest, what did you get? That's right. You got the riots in Minnesota. Because these journalists are activists. They're not here to tell you the truth. They're going to downplay the fact that there were multiple gunshots ringing out. I say multiple, I mean several dozen. Apparently, in the first night, Sunday, a police department had its windows shut up. Well, I'm not surprised to see these police officers are resigning. Activists and journalists are outraged. Why was this officer involved in the shooting allowed to resign? She should be fired. And the mayor seems to be going along with all of it. Activists are already yelling at the acting police chief who has very little idea what's really going on. And he's trying to say, we're going to work this out and figure out what to do. But they said, what's your plan? He said, I don't even have a plan. And here we are. In my opinion, I think it's time for these police to resign. You are being abused by the people who live here. And more importantly, if they don't want you and no one else has your back, why be a sacrifice for the outrage mob? Interestingly, there is a tweet from Sam Harris, a prominent anti-Trump figure and podcaster, in response to Kyle Kashuv. There was a question about these moderate liberal types saying you have to vote for Joe Biden to get things back to normal. And now here we are. It's just as bad as it's ever been. I don't want to say it's worse than it's ever been because summer has not yet arrived and it may get worse than it is now. But the violence is escalating. Biden has denounced the violence, but will he actually do anything? That is yet to be seen. He's certainly not held up. He's certainly not come through on many of the promises he made. But I suppose to the far left, he's doing exactly what they expected. The far left routinely said last year, it is easier to overthrow a feeble old man than a fascist. They genuinely believed Trump was an authoritarian dictator and Joe Biden was their easy path to seizing power. And now that Joe Biden is in, here we go. The Chauvin trial is not even halfway done. Okay, well, actually, maybe it is. But what I should say is it's just now entering the last 2 quarters. The defense has started their case, though it will be shorter than the prosecution's case. We are looking at only a few days. My friends, only a few more days of the defense stating their case and bringing in their witnesses. Then it's going to go to the jury for deliberations. We may actually see, I could be wrong about this, but it seems like we may actually get a verdict in the Chauvin case relatively soon, maybe by the beginning of next week. If it happens by the end of this week, I don't know. Wow. So apparently there's only 3 days for the defense, which should be yesterday, today, and tomorrow, or maybe today, tomorrow, and the next day, which I don't think the jury will come back immediately. So maybe early next week, but you combine the potential Chauvin acquittal, what's happening with Daunte Wright, this city is going to go up 10 times worse than it was last year. Now, we don't know what's going to happen in the Chauvin case, but Jonathan Turley and many others have already pointed out the Daunte Wright case is absolutely going to impact this trial. And it makes you wonder. The city paid a $27 million settlement to the Floyd family amid the trial while it was going on, tainting the jury. And now these riots. The deck is being stacked against Chauvin. Maybe the jury will just say, please leave us alone. He's guilty. Fine. I don't care. We'll see. Let's read the news to figure out what's going on with this police officer and this police chief who have resigned. And I want to show you statements from these Biden liberals now that they're refusing to take the L and admit they made a mistake, at the very least. Before we get started, Head over to timcast.com and become a member to get access to exclusive members-only segments of the Timcast IRL podcast and support my work on this show. The purge is real. They've been banning a lot of people, and it's possible we get banned at some point. So we're working on designing out the timcast.com website. In the event I get banned, we will have more content here, but also we're doing a lot of stuff. We're going to have some shows. We got a bunch of really amazing content with a bunch of people you probably know and like, and maybe some people you even don't like. Go to timcast.com, become a member, help us do our jobs and stay afloat. And don't forget to like, share, subscribe, hit that notification bell. Let's read the first story. USA Today reports police chief and officer who fatally shot Daunte Wright have both resigned, Brooklyn Center mayor says. There was also another city manager who was fired for saying there should be due process for this officer. Now that's scary stuff. USA Today reports the police officer who fatally shot Daunte Wright has resigned along with the police chief, the city's mayor announced. Kim Potter, a 48-year-old officer and a 26-year veteran of the department, submitted her letter of resignation Tuesday morning. Mayor Mike Elliott said in a press conference. He said the city did not ask her to resign. Police Chief Tim Gannon also resigned Tuesday. Quote, "We want to send the message to the community that we're taking this situation very seriously," Elliott said. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety Bureau of Criminal Apprehension identified Potter as the officer who shot Wright, 20, on Sunday during a traffic stop. Gannon on Monday said he believed Potter mistook her firearm for her taser when she shot Wright on Sunday and released body camera footage of the incident during which Potter shouted taser before firing. She actually shouted taser several times. Meanwhile, city manager Kurt Bagani was fired. Bagani said Monday the officer should be given due process after Mayor Mike Elliott said she should be fired. The city manager has control of the police department, but Elliott said the city council voted Monday to give the mayor's office command authority. Protests grew outside the Brooklyn Center police station Monday as hundreds gathered despite a 7 p.m. to 6 a.m. curfew imposed by Minnesota Governor Tim Walz. A massive law enforcement presence descended on the Minneapolis area, and about 1,000 Minnesota National Guard troops were expected to be activated by Monday night. Brooklyn Center is about 10 miles north of Minneapolis, where the trial of former officer Derek Chauvin in the death of George Floyd was in its third week of testimony. Wright's family hired civil rights attorney Ben Crump, who represents the Floyd family and many other families who have lost loved ones in police shootings, and co-counsel Jeff Storms. Crump and Storms will hold a news conference Tuesday with Wright and Floyd's families in Minneapolis. They say, here's what we know. They're going to mention the Obamas have made statements. And I'll tell you this. Kim Potter, welcome to being Chauvin number 2. You were all given ample opportunity. You were warned. There's two perspectives here, and I think they both work out for both sides. Okay, maybe not everybody. One faction is saying get rid of the police, period. I'm not exaggerating. Rashida Tlaib has outright said, get rid of all of it. Okay. Police, you heard the left. On the right, you are getting no support. Okay, hold on. There are many conservatives standing up and defending these police. But the police are being used by these cities as sacrifices for the woke mob, for the outrage. Now, look, this shooting from this woman, Kim Potter, was wrong. It is not an accidental discharge. People said it was an accident. It was an accident. No, it wasn't. It was negligent. When you're a gun owner, if you're a cop or otherwise, what comes out of that gun is your responsibility, which means you need to be trained and you need to be aware of what you hold in your hand. She made a mistake. I understand that. I don't believe it's a murder charge, but I do believe she is responsible for this shooting. I do believe that this man, Daunte Wright, should not have resisted. In fact, if he didn't, he could have actually been he could have actually had standing to challenge unlawful gun control laws. But he did resist, and it resulted in chaos. Many conservatives have defended Kim Potter, saying that she should not even be trying to claim it was an accidental tasing. Some have actually said when she was yelling taser, she was actually asking the other cops to do it. And when they didn't, she had to shoot him. He was wanted on a gross misdemeanor gun charge, and he was reaching in his vehicle or he was scuffling to get inside his vehicle. There's a reasonable argument the officer had to stop him. Now, I think this whole thing is just a mess. I think the officer is responsible for discharging her weapon. We'll see how this plays out, but I do believe she will be arrested. I believe she will likely face some kind of criminal charge. She may even get a murder charge. But let's stay focused on the task, on the story at hand. The police chief's resignation spells absolute chaos for this city. And as I stated, in my opinion, I think Every single one of these cops should resign, not because I'm mad at them. They need to stand up and let these cities know this is what happens without us. Not every single cop is a bad person. There's bad laws, and there's a lot of cops who don't want to enforce some of these laws, and some cops don't. And there are accidents. This is a story about a woman who was trying to detain a man wanted on a gun charge. I understand that, even if I don't agree with the law. He resisted arrest, jumped into his car, and she shot him. This is not a clear-cut case where someone had a depraved mind and said, I wanted to hurt you. It was a chaotic scene. I feel bad for everyone involved, and I feel worse for the family that lost this 20-year-old young man. But it's not like people are evil. It's just sometimes accidents happen. From this, the journalists, I'll do air quotes for journalists, are screaming at the cops. I just wish for once the police would send a message. They don't want you here, officer. They don't want you here. And the rest of the city is sacrificing you so they can appease the violent mobs. At what point do you say, I'll give you exactly what you want. I'll be leaving now. I do it all the time. You know, I go to a restaurant, not nearly as serious. I go to a restaurant, and if I wait longer than 10 minutes for someone to come and provide me with some assistance, I'm like sitting at a table, I'm like, dude, this is taking forever. I just get up and walk out. If they don't want me here, I ain't going to argue with them. I'm not going to complain or pull a Karen and say, how dare you not serve me? I say, all right, well, you know, if they don't want the business, I don't got the time to sit around and wait. Now, this police chief, he did it. Bravo. I applaud this man. It was the right move. Absolutely. He resigned. He resigned and said, you know, look, I'm out. Check this out. Fox News reports reporters scold Minnesota police chief for describing unrest after Daunte Wright shooting as riot. Fox News, you called it unrest. Call it a riot. It was. Gunshots were ringing out. A cop got hit in the head and had to be hospitalized. I am not happy with violent agents of the state trying to seize the weapons of individuals who are enjoying their Second Amendment rights. But I also understand you don't win these fights by resisting and getting into fights with cops. So I'm not happy about it. I'm not a big fan of police. I think police need to be reformed. But I also recognize that a lot of these cops are in difficult positions. We need police. Most reasonable people understand that. But now we have seen that reason is out the window. Look at this. Reporters scolded Brooklyn Center Police Chief Tim Gannon Monday for using the term riot to describe the violence that took place Sunday night. They say demonstrators outside the Brooklyn Center department grew violent. We understand this. However, Gannon appeared to trigger reporters at a press conference. Quote, what was your decision to issue a dispersal order while they were peacefully protesting in front of the police station? A reporter asked before noting that CO2 canisters and gas were used in the crowd. Just so that everybody's clear, I was front and center at the protest at the riot. Don't do that, one reporter interjected. There was no riot. These people are psychopaths. These journalists, they're not journalists. They're psychopaths. This was a riot. They were shooting at people. It's insane. And this cop, Tim Gannon, you know what? He did the right thing. He said, all right, I'm out. Later, y'all. If the people of this community won't stand up, you know what you need to see? Every good, honest, reasonable person coming out of their house and screaming at these people, go home, stop. Good, regular people need to be showing up and linking arms and protecting the law enforcement from the violent mobs. Now, again, I don't know if that's actually a reasonable response. I'm just saying we need people to stand up and say, stop it. We understand the police need to be reformed, but this is insane. Instead, what do we get? The journalists defend the violent extremists. If every single cop in Brooklyn Center and in Minneapolis and the surrounding area said, we all resign, you would see the greatest reversal and policy change in the history of this country. Overnight, the state would probably turn 90% red. I'm being hyperbolic here. Regular people would be like, yay, the police, or I should say these like uninitiated, ignorant Democrat voters would be like, yay, the police are gone. They've all resigned. And then, you know, their city will descend into chaos and they'll be suffering and scared. But it's what they asked for. Now, I know I've heard from some people who say, but the police are there to protect the regular people who want the police to be there. And I'm like, dude, fine. The mayor is throwing you under the bus. Half the people in this place apparently don't even want you there. And so you're going to, no, I'm sorry. At a certain point, you must decide, do you want to be the next Derek Chauvin, sitting on trial with murder 2 charges because they asked you to go and do this? What y'all need to understand about these ongoing riots is that the more the riots escalate, the likelihood that these cops will find themselves in a Kim Potter or Derek Chauvin situation become closer to 1. Eventually, these cops who are so arrogant, they're like, it won't happen to me. I'm fine. I'm not like Derek Chauvin. We'll be walking down the street one day, whistling a tune, waving to the kids saying, I'm just here to help. And then someone pulls a gun. And then someone threatens a kid. And they say, I'm going to stop this person. And then all the cameras come out. And then they're like, you violent, murderous police officer. And then that cop who doesn't understand what's going on will find themselves in prison. That's where this is going. You had that cop in Atlanta. He was chasing after a guy who was sleeping and who was drunk driving. And the guy stole his weapon, gave the other cop a concussion, turned to fire the taser so the cop defended himself. Yeah, he got arrested. It's politics. I can't believe there are police who are still willing to sit around and be like, meh, I'm fine here. Nothing bad will happen to me. Yeah, okay. Maybe that's fair. I don't think Kim Potter, 26-year veteran, thought she was going to find herself in the situation. I'll tell you this. If she had resigned when the Floyd riots escalated and Minneapolis said, we want to abolish our police department, and it was clear that the politics of this place was getting insane, she would not be in this situation. And to be honest, Daunte Wright would still be alive. So I'll put it this way. If the left wants you to resign and the right recognizes you're being disrespected, then why don't you stand up for yourself and say, okay, left, we'll give you exactly what you want. Win-win for everybody. I'll tell you this. In 10 minutes, the people of these cities will be begging, absolutely begging for the police back. There was no riot. Gannon doubled down. It was. The officers that were putting themselves in harm's way were being pelted with frozen cans of pop. They were being pelted with concrete blocks. And yes, we had our helmets on. We had other protection and gear. But an officer was injured, hit in the head with a brick. So we had to make decisions. We had to disperse the crowd because we cannot allow our officers to be harmed. Well, this dude's out. Check this out. Brooklyn Center acting police chief says he learned about changes to the department in the past hour. It's very chaotic right now. We were just informed less than a half an hour or an hour ago about the whole change of status. There's just a lot of chaos going on right now. We're just trying to wrap our heads around the situation and try and create some calm, said Grunig, who has been with the department for 19 years. Elliott said Grunig has spent a lot of time in the community and knows the city well. You know what, man? I have no sympathy for these cops at this point. You know the left is coming for you. You know the government is selling you out. And there is no one standing up for you other than empty platitudes and some comments here or there. I'm sure there are regular people saying, thank you so much for what you're doing. I understand how hard it is. And I understand there are cops who are like, I can't leave them to fend. No. I think you got to stand up for yourselves. I think you got to reject this because now we've got activists screaming at the new cops. I'm sick and tired of people like you. You can look away all you want. You can take the trash out, but it has a way of recycling itself. You don't even know who these cops are. The chief resigned. This guy comes in. They're already screaming at him. Amazing. Brooklyn Center mayor on why Officer Kim Potter was allowed to resign instead of being fired. He said, we were going through our own process, but the officer resigned, so we have that resignation at the moment. The acting police chief, Tony Grunig, said, I don't have a plan. I was appointed the chief an hour ago. We want to do things that community members would like to see us do. I get it. You live in a small town. You might know a lot of people who live there. It's amazing to me, though, that what's happening right now, people in these cities are so spoiled. We were talking about this on the IRL podcast the other day. You don't have to go to trial. Hold on. Let me finish a sentence. When they pulled over Daunte Wright, everyone, people have said, if you think you're in the right, you don't resist, and then you have to go to trial and plead your case. No. You get to go to trial because there are countries where they would just beat you to death in the street, or they would just arrest you and throw you in a concrete block and you never hear anything again. The founding fathers sacrificed blood and treasure for the right to a trial in this country. Some of the founding fathers, many of them, we don't remember. The signers of the Declaration of Independence who had their homes burned to the ground or who were killed. One of the demands was a right to a fair trial. So when you have the police come, they're jamming you up. Well, you get to go to trial. That's where you fight this. However, in these instances, people resist. They shouldn't have done it. Now I see these cops And it's absolutely insane to me. What's going on with these people just willing to accept this? Let's talk about where we go from here. Rashida Tlaib. It wasn't an accident. Policing in our country is inherently and intentionally racist. Daunte Wright was met with aggression and violence. I am done with those who condone government-funded murder. No more policing, incarceration, and militarization. It can't be reformed. Okay. What do we do then? I'll tell you this. Rashida Tlaib is saying these cops should be booted. Why would the cops stick around when they're facing this onslaught with no defense? Where are the people coming out in their community and saying, we reject Antifa and Black Lives Matter? They don't do it. Conservatives typically don't go out and protest. If they do, they get demonized, so I can understand why people probably don't want to. But too many people on the right are just saying, I don't know, I don't really want to be involved. Now, what do you think you get when people like Rashida Tlaib, and I've defended her many times, I've complimented her on policies like when she voted against the omnibus spending package, but this is nuts. What do you think happens when you get a Joe Biden, when you get a Rashida Tlaib? They exacerbate the problem. Joe Biden's made the border worse. Now we see the violence reemerging around Black Lives Matter. He's not solving the problem. Maybe Trump couldn't have either, but at least Trump opposed it, was very vocal about it. I look to people like Sam Harris. Take a look at this. Kyle Kashev says, I distinctly remember being told that the social unrest, violence, and wokeness would cool down if Biden won. And then he tweets to, I believe this is Andrew Sullivan and Sam Harris. And now my respect to Sam Harris for responding. He said, I merely said it would be easier for sane and decent people to oppose, as it surely is. There's no way to know how bad it would be had the orange moron been reelected. I think it would be worse, but I'm just guessing. Incredible. That's a fallacy. Why? We know what it was like under Donald Trump. We know that under Donald Trump, he deployed federal law enforcement to stop the violent riots and the escalation. But the protests that we saw, the Black Lives Matter riots, started under Barack Obama. To be as blind as someone like Sam Harris, who is either willfully ignorant or he's more concerned with appearance than principle. We know that under Barack Obama, the Black Lives Matter started. I covered the Ferguson riots and the Baltimore riots. That was not Donald Trump. Under Donald Trump, we saw similar riots escalated from the Obama era. I do not think it was Trump's fault, and I think Trump opposed it. That's about it. Some people certainly rallied to that cause because they didn't like Donald Trump. Now he says, we have no way, no idea, no way to know how bad it would be if the orange moron had been reelected. What do you mean? We went through 4 years of Trump and the riots. We know exactly what they were doing. He went on to say, maybe it would be worse. Maybe. But under Joe Biden, we had no guarantees. We go back to the policies of the Obama era. That's where it started. Who in their right mind would be like, it'll be better if we elect the guy who was second in command during the start of all of these riots? That's ignorant and makes no sense. Now, I'm not going to pretend like Donald Trump was going to be the savior who would have stopped all of this, because he didn't do that much either. But this idea that we must vote for Joe Biden so everything will calm down was psychotic, was insane, was stupid. If what we're seeing is any indication of a summer to come, I can tell you this. Under Donald Trump, it's going to be substantially worse. I'm sorry. Under Joe Biden, it's going to be substantially worse. Freudian slip, maybe? No. I think under Joe Biden, it'll be substantially worse. Why? You look at the migrant crisis on the border. It is earlier than it's ever been. We have record-breaking unaccompanied migrants coming to the border, record-breaking amounts of illegal immigrants. It is substantially more than we saw at the peak during Donald Trump. It is a historic high. Now we can see it's only April, and already riots have erupted across the country. I mean, the George Floyd stuff happened at the end of May. We're a month early, just like the migrant crisis, because these people lied to you. I look at people like Sam Harris. I get it. Smart fella, I suppose. Dave Rubin responded to Sam Harris and said, Ha, Sam, yes, a few people are slightly standing up more and accomplishing pretty much nothing. But meanwhile, critical race theory is back in institutions. Equity policy is everywhere. Insane spending. Random war on the way. Also, Biden has dementia. Does that concern you? But hey, he is an orange. Calls Trump the orange moron. Yeah, well, Joe Biden's a moron as well. Come on. I don't think the federal level has that much to do with what we're seeing. But I suppose I would have preferred someone who was harsh on the riots as opposed to someone who just complains about it and is passive or deferential. Sam Harris, in my opinion, is the kind of guy who is more concerned with appearance, telling you, oh, the people who are actually calling this out and standing on principle, well, these people, they're supporting Trump, so they're wrong. Sam Harris tells you that we should oppose the irrational, yet he is completely irrational about Donald Trump. And now here it is. The escalation is here. The chaos, the insanity, the absurdity. Chelsea Handler. Why would any person of color ever comply with a police officer when there's a 50-50 shot of getting accidentally shot? There isn't a 50-50 shot, mind you. That's ridiculous. But you can see the rhetoric has not changed. Whether it's Donald Trump or Joe Biden, the rhetoric has not changed. Now, we see Rashida Tlaib. We see Cori Bush. When Philando Castile was murdered by police at a traffic stop, Minnesota invested $12 million in police training. Where was that training when they killed Daunte Wright just 10 miles from where Derek Chauvin sits on trial for murdering George Floyd? Could it be that accidents happen? It could. But these people aren't going to tell you that. Daunte Wright was wanted on a misdemeanor gun charge. I do not believe he should have been charged with having a gun because he has a Second Amendment right. But you understand the officer who stopped him, they knew what he was wanted for. They say possession of a pistol without a permit. It's a gross misdemeanor and fleeing an officer. They said, Daunte, don't run. Don't do it. They knew he would flee or the potential to and the potential to have a weapon. Hence, a scuffle broke out and the man lost his life. I'm upset by it. But this is the reality. With training or without training, these things will always happen. They will always happen. I guess the left is like, just ban all the guns. That'll stop it. It won't. Then someone will have a knife. Then someone will have a rock or a brick or a club or something. And the police will panic. Now they're saying maybe the police shouldn't be armed at all. Now, I've tweeted this in the past. Yes, police officers like Kim Potter should lose her firearm. I don't think that's controversial. I certainly think conservatives, some of them viewed it that way, because I tweeted something like, okay, maybe I should have been more clear. I tweeted something like, it's time for police to lose their guns, something like that. And it was specifically in reference to a cop who pulled off something like this. Conservatives took it as to mean like I was saying no cops should be armed. Now, I've pointed out in the past, some cops shouldn't be, like just in general, like meter maids or something, or like traffic control in the middle of the street. Patrol officers should, but if you shoot someone in this situation, you shouldn't have a gun. It's just that simple. And it's funny because like my approach was very basically like, if you accidentally discharge your weapon or you're improper or you can't aim or whatever, you don't get to keep your gun. You still be a cop, though. Long story short, it's a tragic situation. A warrant was issued because he failed to appear at his hearing. It was a remote hearing. Maybe he thought he got away with it. Maybe Daunte didn't realize they got his name and they knew who he was. They knew who he was. They probably stopped him, saw he had a permit. He ran, got away and said, I'm fine. But they knew him. So they issued a court appearance. He didn't appear for it because they didn't know about it. Maybe, I'm just speculating. And then when they stopped him, he didn't know what was up. He didn't realize he was going to get in trouble for anything. And there it goes. The police, in my opinion, need to stand up like they did in Portland. Check this out. Fox News reported December 23rd, Portland cops resigning at unprecedented level mid-career to take low-paying jobs elsewhere. Demonstrations have taken a toll on officers who have chosen to leave. A regrettable win for defund the police activists. The assistant chief says. But you got to stand up for yourself, for your pride, for your honor, for what you believe in. Then we got this. Seattle police, quote, I refuse to work for the Socialist City Council. Resigning SPD cops cite low morale, safety, and city leaders as reasoning for leaving. You got to do it. You got to stand up. And then we get this from John Turley. Brooklyn Center unrest adds more problems in trial of Derek Chauvin. This officer, Kim Potter, whether she realized it or not, her actions are going to result in a detriment for Derek Chauvin because now the jury is going to be sitting there sweating bullets as people are burning things down all around them, 10 miles away. You'd think these jurors don't know about this. They do. The judge said he won't sequester them. So now they're hearing 2 nights of riots and 1,000 National Guard deployed. And then you look them in the eye and say, do it. I dare you. They'll find out who you were afterwards, that you sided with the bigot. They're going to say guilty. I think if the jury chooses to rule on the merits, murder 2 is out the window. Murder 3, maybe, possibly out the window. I think very likely out the window. Manslaughter is the coin toss. Based on what I've seen so far, I think even manslaughter's out the window. I absolutely do. And I've watched all of the prosecution's case, and I've seen the medical examiners not give me a definitive reason for how George Floyd died. Just some possibilities. Sorry, I got reasonable doubt all over the place. The defense has just started. They're only going to be up for a few days, so we may get a quick verdict. Who knows? It may happen beginning of next week. That would be better, I guess, because weekends you get riots to ignite. But these jurors are staring down the barrel of a figurative gun. If they say Chauvin is not guilty in any capacity, even only on one of the charges, there's also an assault charge for Chauvin. If they say on the charge of murder in second degree, we find the defendant not guilty, that will be a quote. That will be the headline. And the jurors probably know this. And the activists will say, we're coming for you. And they will. And what's going to happen? Nothing. So the jurors have a very simple choice. If they want to hide, they're going to say guilty on all counts, which would be insane. If that happens, Chauvin would likely appeal. An appeal, maybe at a federal court or a higher court, might actually win. But he might have to go. He might have to he'll be in prison, mind you. But I think he would eventually win an appeal. I'm shocked the judge refused to sequester the jury, because now all this broke out and it proves why the defense was right. The cops, in my opinion, should resign. Send a message. Stand up for yourselves. I can't believe I watched when the George Floyd riots happened, when they burned down that police station, all those cops running out the back, just breaking in random directions. It's amazing. I'm not saying it was a good thing. I'm saying it was just like, wow, a sight to behold. These cops experiencing this. And many of them still think they're going to keep that job and they'll be fine. They will throw you under the bus. Give them the chance, and they will do it. So good on the police chief. Resigning was the right move for two reasons. Because the activists demand it. Fine. Give them what they want. Be careful what you wish for. You might just get it. And he's standing up for himself and saying, fine, I'm gone. I'm out. You deal with it. I think it'll be bad tonight. We'll see. Next segment's coming up tonight at 8 p.m. over at youtube.com/TimCastIRL. It's a live show. Come hang out, and we'll see you all there at 8 p.m. Thanks for hanging out.